There are a multitude of guides on aiming in this game, and honestly just way too many. So we figured we could streamline some of this info. In today's video, we want to condense some of the best tips we can in as short of a time as possible. Without wasting too much time, let's get started. There are hundreds of videos overcomplicating counter-strafing and movement while shooting. To keep it simple, if you want to stay mobile and send out effective shots while moving, remember this rule: move, stop, shoot. Counter-strafing in this game is about the same as just letting go of a strafe key, so don't overcomplicate it with unnecessary movements. Simply strafe in one direction, let go of the strafe key, shoot, and strafe again if you need to. Now that we got our most basic topic out of the way, let's talk about predictive aiming. Players will develop predictive aiming due to playing against players for a period of time. It is how it sounds. It's predicting the movement and aiming where you expect the player to move rather than tracking them. Predictive aiming can be great, but it can hinder you against players with erratic movement. This is due to relying solely on where you think the player will be, rather than tracking the play effectively. We've seen lots of clips of players failing to hit shots due to subconsciously relying only on their predictive aim. People are going to argue that practicing tracking is completely pointless in Valorant, but due to the possible drawback caused by predictive aim, it makes practicing tracking actually worth it. A good way to improve your aim and your tracking as a whole is by speed ramping your aim. What is speed ramping? Speed ramping is a style of aim practice where you start off aiming at bots in the practice range, going very slow from head to head and speeding up slightly as you go along. You want to make sure you're always prioritizing accuracy over speed here, and you shouldn't be speeding up your aim to the point where you're not hitting any shots. This style of practice is great for familiarizing yourself with the amount of distance that your mouse has to travel from target to target. You can slow it down exponentially to really familiarize yourself with the travel distance if you want. Honestly, it's a great way to practice aim, and it's quite overlooked by players. You can fairly easily utilize tempo changes while doing your practice to hit on different mechanics. If we speed it up a lot, we can instead focus on our flicks. Flicks are an essential concept, and there's multiple ways to actually complete a flick. By practicing the range here, we can hit on our flicks by offsetting our crosshair from the opponent and making one quick adjustment to their head. Once again, prioritize accuracy if you can, but speed is very important when practicing flicks. Over time, your speed will improve, so go as fast as you can while maintaining accuracy. There are two main types of flicks in this game: micro and macro flicks. Micro flicks are a small but quick adjustment to the target. Macro flicks are a large adjustment, following a linear path to the target. By combining both macro flicks and micro flicks, you get a standard flick. Generally, when you see players flicking, you'll see two adjustments involved: a macro flick to get as close to the target as possible, followed by a micro flick, or micro adjustment, to actually land their crosshair onto the target. This is why it's pretty important that you're practicing both micro and macro flicks, so you're able to easily get used to utilizing both of them. Flicking is kind of a last resort though, honestly. And while it is super important to practice it, you shouldn't be flicking for every kill. Flicking is just there for when your crosshair placement falls through. Crosshair placement is just having your crosshair at head level, making it so any adjustment you're forced to make is as small as possible. This is an incredibly important concept, and it truly shines when combined with pre-aiming. Pre-aiming is a subset of crosshair placement. Aiming at angles before you swing them is absolutely essential as an aimer. A lot of top-tier gamers have insane aim, sure, but their pre-aiming does a bulk of the work. So if you know there's an enemy at an angle, aim at them through the wall before swinging. Also, make sure you're doing your best to pre-aim common angles before you swing into them. This will also cut down on the adjustments that you have to make while playing the game. Remember, the smaller the adjustment you have to make, the better. While pre-aiming angles, your mouse will eventually be positioned at awkward angles. And this is why keeping track of your strong mouse position is key when playing Valorant. This is the position where your mouse sits on your mouse pad that you most naturally feel comfortable with. Everyone has one. It's important that you keep this in mind. When you move throughout the map, you'll stray from this strong position. When you notice you're at suboptimal positions, if you have time before clearing the next angle, reset your mouse position and mentally prepare to swing. If you mentally prepare for the swing and reset your mouse to its strongest position, your chances of coming out on top are much higher than if you pre-aim and swing. If you do happen to panic or fail to prepare and your crosshair placement's off, you can always rely a bit on spraying. Just know, dropping into a crouch spray shouldn't be the way that you approach this. You should really make sure you're trying your best to control your spray and stay standing if at all possible. Spraying is essential in the game though. It enables you to fight multiple opponents at a time and kill players that may be moving very quickly across your screen. When you fight multiple opponents, you have to rely on a concept known as spray transferring. This is spraying one opponent, then swapping to the next rapidly. It's fairly easy to accomplish, but you have to practice it, which we'll talk about later. With both aim and gunplay, there's always a best core mechanic to utilize in a given situation. Tapping is best at long ranges, where bursting and spraying would be ineffective. Bursting is great for medium range, where you can't rely that well on tapping and spraying. You can use these aiming mechanics in tandem with strafing to make you a highly mobile and extremely lethal machine. Remember this from earlier? Move, stop, shoot. You can do this in either spray, tap, or burst to rapidly dispatch opponents. It's also important that you try your hardest not to crouch in gunfights. There is a time and place for crouching, but an extended gunfight is not one of those times. Moving targets by nature are harder to hit, so with proper practice, you can stay mobile. Crouching makes you a smaller and easier target to hit. You can crouch to hold angles to offset enemy crosshair placement, but it's not great to crouch in a gunfight. I'm sure if you're new to any of these mechanics or tips, you'll want to practice them. Focused practice is easily one of the best ways to actually hammer in a new mechanic. Pick one mechanic, spraying, tapping, etc., and then focus on it during a match. This will help you become more proficient in that given mechanic. You can also focus your attention on things like pre-aiming, crosshair placement, and mouse position as well. You just don't have to hammer it in super hard. More so, you just want to be aware of those mechanics. When it comes to aiming, you kind of want to take things one step at a time. It's best if you understand the principles behind aiming, as this will help you take a step further in understanding where you're lacking, which will give you a more clear path to improvement. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little bit more about SkillCapped. So we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and we think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's kind of like getting a gym membership that guarantees you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered you that, but not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium Valorant guides on the entire internet. We add new courses every month with over 1,000 guides curated into over 50 courses, so no one can compare. We also have a direct line of communication with subscribers in our Discord, so you can get connected immediately to some of the best players in the game, who will respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you're serious about improving. So, that's going to be all for this one today. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.